All right, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I've set my helmet down because it's like 95 degrees out today. So this is a video about my AUG A3 M1. I'm sorry I haven't made too many videos lately. I just haven't had a lot of time to go out and shoot and test gear or anything. So this is sort of a update about a project that I've kind of slowly been building to. I am an AK guy. I really like AKs, and those are sort of my weapons. But a few years ago, I had a chance to shoot a bunch of machine gun versions of AUGs, and I was very impressed. I didn't know anything about AUGs at the time. I shot a heavy barreled one with a bipod. I shot one that was a classic, like old school one with the fixed power magnification optic and the 20-inch barrel. And I shot a little miniature one that somebody had customized with a bunch of Corvus Defensio stuff. And I was really impressed with that, and I found it very novel. I didn't know they had a progressive trigger, so like different rates of fire per squeeze on depending on how you're doing it. Didn't know anything about that, so when I shot those AUGs, I was very impressed with them. I kind of created a build for a AUG that I really like and I'm impressed with. I'm going to talk about that. So this is sort of a close-in, medium-range assault, night vision capable AUG setup, and I'll go from the front to right about here because the rest of it is just stock standard AUG. It's the chassis, a normal trigger, and everything. About the trigger though, AUG triggers. I don't know if the older AUG triggers were bad. I shot, again, the only ones I ever shot were machine gun AUGs, and then this one. The machine gun AUG, the classic one, definitely had sort of a heavy, creepy trigger, but it wasn't like a horror story or anything. I think they've updated the trigger from Steyr, and because this one runs like it's like a 6 or 5 pound pull. It's very light, not at all heavy. It just doesn't pull like a normal rifle trigger, like an AR or an AK. It pulls like straight back, like you're squeezing a staple gun. So like I don't like that didn't affect how I was shooting. It's just a quirk of how this gun works, and I like it because the gun feels different anyways. I'm not like carrying over a residual training of a different rifle, even AKs, to this gun. It's just a different, handle, different grip, so I know that it's going to have a different trigger impulse. So that's the trigger. I don't have any complaints about the trigger. I think if you're hung up about like how triggers are or whatever, you have upgrades that are available, but I think the stock standard trigger out of the box is just fine. Really not bad at all. This one came with a 16-inch barrel. I put a 14.5 barrel in it, which they do sell, and I had pinned and welded a 3-prong Surefire flash hider, which is the suppressor mount for my suppressor that I'll be getting at some point. I'm just in the waiting period, but that'll extend the gun out to maybe 30 inches, which is like miniature. This gun is right over the minimum legal length requirement for a rifle. It's miniature, dude. So it's really cool, and that allows for me to have a 14.5 barrel in a package that is like less than 27 inches. So overall, so I can get really in tight quarters and really short spaces and run this thing with the power of a rifle. So that's an advantage that I think is overlooked in AUGs. People think that, oh, it's just a novelty gun. I actually think it's very capable, and that's why I kind of set this up with serious use in mind. There's a lot of reports about how reliable AUGs are. It's winterized, so everything is set up for mittens. Like the safety is set up for use with mittens. Like it's all big and fat. The disassembly is set up for mittens. There's no finger trigger guard. It's just a big knuckle bow here. Like everything is set up for winter. So that's an advantage for me because half my seasons are snowy winter and cold when you want to have mittens. What's neat about AUGs, and this gun it's empty, so you can hold the bolt back like an HK. You can shake the barrel out, and it just comes out like that. So I can swap barrels in and out, but you can see my 14.5 pin and weld barrel. That'll be my suppressor barrel. This does have the suppressor gas plug in it, so I can run it with a suppressor. I have added a Manticore arms rail. So normally the rails on AUGs end right about here, just behind the barrel. And I said that's not that great for mounting lights or, you know, IR equipment. So I wanted to extend my capabilities over the barrel, and so I added this Manticore rail, and I just didn't put the forend on. I didn't think the forend was necessary. It blocks you from being able to take the barrel out. So this is just fine. What I've done is I've mounted a Surefire Scout to the very end, which puts my left hand able to touch the back of the button. And it's perfect. I can click it on, click it off. It's just the right amount of reach. And I really like it. I'm not touching the barrel at all either. Like, it gives me just enough space. I can mount off this the side of the receiver right here, and it holds real nice. I just have to maneuver my hand slightly differently, and it's perfect. Which realistically, like in a kind of a emergency, if it's inside, a white light is great. But if it's like outside, if you think there's some kind of like force on force thing, using a white light is kind of dangerous because they'll see you. But if you're like seeing what's going on outside, having the ability for a light is great. So I needed one, but I needed it kind of out of the way to where I have to get to it to use it. So you know, that's what it is. I added backup iron sights that are offset 45, so that if my heaven forbid somehow my ACOG and my P2 go out, I can turn the rifle and use my offsets, and it's very comfy. This gun is like almost set up for offset sights. It's really great because the rail stands up off it so high. This rail does stand up higher than a normal AUG rail. The AUG rail sits kind of low. This one is up, I'd say, about a ½ inch higher, which is advantageous for mounting optics. You don't have to get your face so squeezed, and that helps if you have earmuffs, so that your earmuffs aren't like squashing up off your helmet. So yeah, I got just 45-degree offset iron sights, and they do not interfere with the ejection pattern. I thought this one would. It doesn't at all. Like, I shot a whole lot today, and it not once did anything come close to that. And if it ever does, if there's any kind of funny ejection, I'll just move it forward. So I'll have a smaller iron sight radius, but I'm not really, those are backups. So it is what it is. But I do think you should have iron sights as a backup on like a fighting gun. Does have left-hand charging, which is neat. So I can, you know, keep my gun presented, charge it back. I can hold it up like a HK, do my mag my mag swap, and then slap it down. Or because this is the AUG version, this is not the NATO version. I don't recommend getting the NATO version because I've heard of reliability issues and the fact that you don't have a bolt release. I got this specifically because I wanted the bolt release to take it. So you can see if I hit the bolt release up, it releases it and sends the round home. So, and these are not very expensive for mags. It's not like oh, these are so crazy. Like, AUG mags are great mags. They're very strong. I've seen these get run over by like trucks and armored vehicles and stuff, and they bounce back. And I think they're a better design than the AR mag because of just how the lugs are. They're stronger. So I went with the AUG variant, and the AUG mag variant, the waffle pattern one. And I've been very pleased with it. Very reliable, no issues. I've used all my mags in this gun at this point, and no problem. The Manticore arms rail does extend further back than the normal AUG rail, so it allows me to mount this ACOG TA02 and a backup here with enough space so that it's actually like usable. I'm not hitting my face on anything, nothing like that. That gives me plenty of eye relief focus here, because ACOGs are kind of like notorious for needing to be right up on you. And then this has a forward mount T-Rex arms for a Acro P2, and that's a perfect night vision setup for using with an ACOG. ACOGs are great for power fixed optics, and the Acro P2 is a great pistol sight. So combined together, it gives me fixed magnification for the daytime and low light conditions, where I don't have to, like, it's not on right now, but if it does get dark, I can turn the thing on, take a few shots, turn it back off. So I can save my battery life for like years and years. Whereas with the Acro P2, I can keep it on, it'll last for years and years. And then if I need to use it at nighttime, I have night vision, so I can, you know, mount my tube up, and I can use this with sort of a chin weld and run my PVS 14 straight to see that. So it's really, really handy to have this sort of setup, especially on a gun this size. I'm not losing any ballistics because, you know, even though it is 14.5, you do, you know, that's 14.5 ballistics for 5.56. But with 62 grain, I'm still hitting like, I had it chronoed, I'm still hitting like 2,700 feet a second. So it's not so bad. So I'm pretty happy with that, with the M855, the green tip. And then with the 16-inch barrel, I'm running 3,100 feet a second. The bullets are really screaming out. And then with normal, like 193, 55 grain, it's like, you know, 2,700 feet a second, 2,500 feet a second. So it's not so bad. And I plan on using the 62 grain stuff for this barrel length. So I mounted a Blue Force gear because to sling this rifle with the sling point out of the way, I took it off because I think it's goofy, because it gets in the way of your charging handle. Literally your sling point is here and your charging handle's right here. So it's like, I don't understand that. I added a Blue Force gear sling bar here and then an AK sling right there. So it actually is perfect. It gets everything out of the way. I can swim through it just fine, no problem. And it allows me to keep my sling controlled, and I can use my optic. It gets it out of the way just fine. So that's sort of the idea for that. I have a American Defense throw lever mount for this TA02, so it's not the normal like 2-screw one that it comes with, but it is a very good mount, and it has the same footprint as the normal like mounts. TA02 is great optic. I have no issues with any of the knobs being loose or like any dimming or anything, so like that's fine. And like I said, I really got this for an etched reticle more than a powered optic. I got even though like it is powered, I wanted it because of the forward mount. Normal ACOGs like the TA31 mount the pistol sights in the back, which if you have a adjustable stock on like an AR or an AK, you can just create longer length of pull and use it with night vision. But this is a fixed stock, so I needed it to be forward, and then that way I can just go from normal aiming to normal aiming. I'm not like having to move anything around. So that's why I went with the TA02. It gives me etched reticle in the daytime with some, you know, I can brighten it up if I need to. What's cool about it is in between each of these brightness settings, there's an off switch. So I turn it off and turn it on to the brightness that I set it to, and then turn it off again. So like it's really great. It's like a very ingenious concept of like, you know, if you have the brightness you want, but you want to save your battery, just turn it off one notch and it shuts the thing off, and then you still have your etched reticle. I'm a big fan of ACOGs. I like them a lot. I've always liked ACOGs. And just the fact that there's one with the mount instead of here, it's here. It's great. It's great for this setup because I can't adjust my stock. I have to keep my head in the same spot. And so this gives me clearance with night vision to see through that top Acro P2. So yeah, so going over this build, I cannot, with these 14.5 barrels, because of safety reasons, you cannot fold the grip forward. The normal AUG grips, you can pull it down and throw it forward and it lines up against the barrel and you can hold it kind of like that, or stow it. But this one, you have to have it deployed, which is good because like to throw it up, it extends out in front of this muzzle device by like a 1/4 inch, which is not cool. And with that right there, it actually can like kind of maneuver its way up in front of the muzzle. So I'm glad they decided not to allow this to fold. I don't need it to fold, it's fine. I've never had a stowage issue where it's like, damn, this pistol grip's in the way. So so yeah, to go over kind of this whole thing, 14.5 barrel pin and weld with my suppressor host flash hider, which this is a great flash hider. I shoot this thing with night vision just as it is, and it doesn't burn your tube. It's great. It takes care of a bunch of that flash. Even with this thing being so close to my body, it doesn't, the end, like being this, you know, closer than a normal 14.5 barrel, it doesn't flash your tube out or do anything. It's great. I can see clearly around it when I'm shooting. I don't get a halo or anything. It's awesome. Surefire Scout light, where my thumb can hit it in a good position with this Manicore rail. No fore-end attached, just the rail itself. I did have to, for this for this to mount my suppressor, I took a end mill bit and just ate into that and made a 90-degree cut right there in the rail. But that is literally the only thing I've had to do to fit my suppressor, and it's just fine. It took like 5 minutes to make that little cut right there. So other than that, there's not really any adjustments required. So 14.5 with the Surefire 3-prong, great flash hider. Surefire Scout, great flashlight. Left side charging handle, taller rail, so better head positioning. Backup iron sights at 45, which work great. Sling bar to get it out of the action, so my action is here all the way, and there's my sling right here, so I can get my whole action clear without having to worry about my sling in the way. Blue Force Gear sling, great sling. TA02 optic, great optic, and Acro P2, great optic for night vision or a backup red dot if it's close up. And then a rear flip sight. So that's sort of this fighting rifle setup. I haven't shot the 16-inch barrel with this setup, so I'm going to see what my shift and point of aim is. I don't think it'll be that much, but this is kind of the setup that I'm going for, and this will be kind of like suppressed pretty much permanently, because you can get suppressor plugs for these AUGs, and it'll just run suppressed instead of beating the gun up. And then stock standard trigger, everything else is stock. I just set the user end up the way I wanted it to, and I'm very, very pleased with it. AUGs are awesome guns. If you're like, you know, I want a fighting gun, but I don't really necessarily want or can hold up the front end of a loaded out AR or whatever. That's a big complaint I hear from guys who have, you know, night fighting equipment or like a lot of gear on their guns. The front end of their rifles gets really heavy. So I kind of took that to heart, and this brings all the weight back in a comfortable firing position. I have no issue holding this up like all day. It's great. The front end is super handy. I can control it really well. Just a great setup. The gun is very accurate. I was shooting my range here on my property is about 220 yards, and I was shooting from end to end all the way to my steel and hitting no problem, with regular cadence, like one every maybe 1 or 2 seconds, maybe like that. And I was hitting steel with the fixed 4-power optics. So very pleased with this setup. I like it a lot. If you like it, you can copy it. I don't like, it's what it is. I don't really have a use for this. That's the only kind of weird complaint. So here's like my complaint for the AUG. I think they should change the charging handle to the right side and put your Picatinny accessories on the left side here. That would make it easier to be able to access, like you can see where my thumb is. If I could access a light right there, if I could mount Picatinny right here instead of up here. That's my one gripe about AUGs, is that they were set up originally for a time when there was no like flashlights on guns or like accessories or night vision devices or anything like that. So that's kind of like the one thing I wish they would just make reversed right side charging handle, because realistically with the bolt hold release, like the bolt release thing on the side here, you don't actually need to charge the gun every time. With the NATO mag one, like the AR mag version of the AUG, you have to charge it every time like an AK, which this makes sense then. But for like the standard AUG mags, they could honestly swap this receiver, like have the charging handle on the right side and have these Picatinny sections on the left side. That way you could mount your fighting accessories where it's like natural to put your thumb here, and you don't have to extend it and potentially hit your hand on the barrel. But I haven't done this. I haven't done that, and I've had this flashlight mounted on here for about a week, and I've shot it, you know, enough to like kind of get my finger away from that barrel. Even with it smoking hot, I don't have discomfort with bare hands. So yeah, that's this Fighting AUG. Really cool gun. I'm very pleased with it, and very pleased with the performance of like the optics and stuff. If you like this video, you can hit the like button or just click off and go away, but I hope you have a great day. Bye.